You know this music. Of course you do. It's everywhere. But the man who wrote it, well, he was a total rock star in his day, who then died broke, forgotten, and was basically erased from history for almost 200 years. So the big question is, how does one of the most famous composers on the planet just vanish? And even crazier, how did he pull off the greatest comeback in musical history? So let's meet the man himself, Antonio Vivaldi. Born back in 1678 in Venice, he was way more than just a composer. In his time, this guy was a full-blown celebrity. A violin genius, a sharp musical entrepreneur, he pretty much ran the European music scene. But his story really starts with a very, very cool nickname. Everybody knew him as Il Prete Rosso, the Red Priest. And yeah, the name was literal. He had this wild shock of red hair, which ran in his family. And get this, at age 25, he was ordained as a Catholic priest. It's the perfect snapshot of who he was, this fascinating mix of a man of God and a total musical showman. Now, Vivaldi's road to fame was unconventional, to say the least. It didn't start in some fancy royal court. Nope. It started in a home for abandoned girls, where he built an orchestra that would absolutely take Europe by storm. This plaque here marks the spot of the Ospedale della Pietà in Venice. Now, this place was basically an orphanage, but it would become the unlikely launchpad for Vivaldi's genius and really his entire international career. So the Pietà wasn't just any orphanage. They gave these abandoned girls an unbelievable, top-tier musical education. And when Vivaldi got hired as the violin master, he saw their talent and just ran with it. He turned this all-female orchestra into one of the most famous musical groups in all of Europe. The guy was a machine. He was cranking out 2 brand new concertos for them every single month. And you gotta understand, Vivaldi wasn't just a teacher and a composer. The man himself was a legendary performer. A German traveler wrote this back in 1715 after seeing him play, saying his skill was so incredible, so mind-blowing, that it was hard to imagine anyone ever playing that way again. A true virtuoso. Okay, so his reputation is just building and building, and it's all leading up to the absolute pinnacle of his fame. He was about to compose his masterpiece, a piece of music that would literally change everything. The Four Seasons, it wasn't just another set of concertos, it was a full-on revolution. Before Vivaldi, music didn't usually try to paint such a specific, detailed picture. He was one of the pioneers of what we call programmatic music, where the instruments themselves are telling you a story, scene by scene. And he got so specific with it. The music wasn't just about the general feeling of a season. Oh no, it was about actual sounds and moments. You can literally hear birds singing in spring, you can hear the buzzing mosquitoes in summer, and you can hear teeth chattering in the bitter cold of winter. It's incredible. His fame got so huge that he became a major public figure, a celebrity in every sense of the word. He was so famous that artists like Gezi here were drawing caricatures of him. You know you've made it when people start making cartoons of you, right? And his success went way beyond just concertos. He was a huge opera impresario, claiming he wrote 94 of them. He was getting jobs from the King of France, and he was a personal favorite of the Holy Roman Emperor, Charles VI. The emperor was apparently so captivated by Vivaldi that he spoke more with him than with his own ministers for 2 years. So he's at the absolute height of his powers. He's rich, he's famous. It really seemed like Vivaldi could do no wrong. But his spectacular rise was about to be matched by a fall that was just as sudden and just as tragic. It all just completely unraveled with terrifying speed. In 1740, Vivaldi moves to Vienna, counting on the support of his biggest fan, the emperor. But just a few months later, boom, the emperor dies, completely out of the blue. Vivaldi was left totally stranded, and less than a year later, he himself was dead. So how did it all collapse so fast? Well, in one word, fashion. Musical tastes were changing. That complex, fancy Baroque style that he had perfected was starting to sound old. A new, simpler style was coming in, the classical era. The public, and the rich patrons, had simply moved on. The man who was celebrated by emperors and kings was buried right here, in a simple grave at a public hospital cemetery in Vienna. He got the absolute cheapest funeral service you could get. For a giant of music, a small peal of bells. It's heartbreaking. Just as a report from the time noted, this was a man who earned an absolute fortune in his life, but he died a pauper. His music, which was once the soundtrack of Europe, just faded away into almost complete silence for the next 200 years. But the story doesn't end in that pauper's grave. Not even close. In one of the most amazing turnarounds in cultural history, Vivaldi's genius would be found again, sparking a massive worldwide revival. I mean, the contrast here is just stunning. For the entire 19th century, Vivaldi was basically a historical footnote. Even the Four Seasons was pretty much unknown. Now compare that to today, where his music is absolutely everywhere, in movies, commercials, concert halls all over the globe. So how on earth did that happen? Well, it all started in 1926 with an unbelievable discovery. Researchers literally stumbled upon a massive treasure trove of his lost manuscripts. We're talking hundreds of concertos and operas, just hidden away in a monastery. That discovery led to a historic Vivaldi Week in 1939 that put his music back on the map. And after World War II, his comeback was official. And what a legacy to bring back. He was a huge influence on other giants like Johann Sebastian Bach, who actually studied and copied his work to learn from him. He was a pioneer who pushed music into brand new territory. And the craziest part, we are still finding lost music by him, even today. Today, this monument stands in Vienna, not too far from where he was dumped in that unmarked grave. It's such a powerful symbol of his incredible journey, from a forgotten pauper all the way back to a celebrated, permanent fixture in the story of music. It's an absolutely incredible story, right? It shows you just how fragile fame can be, but also how truly great art can last, even after centuries of being ignored. And it really makes you wonder, if a genius as big as Vivaldi could be completely forgotten, who else is out there, just waiting for us to rediscover?